So I frequently talk about movies that have been out for a while or that have become pinnacles of science fiction and fantasy. But today we're going to talk about a movie that was released in 2020 that I think was seriously ignored due to
that fire is the police station.
Everything that happened in 2020. The movie's called Over the Moon, and this is what happens when Netflix rips off Disney. Hi, my name is Kyrie, and this is Flights of Fantasy, the show where we look at different science fiction and fantasy movies and ask what do they mean. And you can be forgiven if at first glance you think this movie was made by Disney. It was directed by Glenn Keane, who, he's a Disney alum with a couple of small projects on his resume, like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Rescuers. Wait, a Disney alumna that's making a movie about how children deal with grief? Haven't I said this before? The answer is yes. I made a video about the Iron Giant, which you can check out over here if you're interested. I think you should too, because I think it's a pretty good video. Anyway, while there are similarities between the two movies, I'm more interested in seeing what exactly Netflix incorporates when it's trying to pull a Disney. So every time I see a key Disney element, we're gonna go to the Disney dartboard. You'll see about that later. Anyway, let's get into this. Over the Moon starts out with a young Fei-Fei being told stories by her parents. They talk about a space dog who is the reason why the moon has phases. But Fei-Fei's more interested in hearing about the moon goddess, Chang'e, which leads us into the song On the Moon Above. This is the only 2D animated sequence in the entire movie, and it's also just casually small flex, hand animated by the director Glenn Keane. This guy has talent.
Beautiful and kind Chang'e, and a handsome man named...
And just like that, with one song, we've got our first two Disney darts. Hand-drawn 2D animation and learning life lessons through song. So the song tells us about Chang'e being in love with Hou Yi, but after taking an immortality potion, or a pill, it actually changes throughout the movie and is not very consistent, which actually reflects the myth itself, which is, it changes depending on who you hear it from, but anyway. But after taking this immortality potion and or pill, she floats up to the moon. Hou Yi dies as a mortal on Earth, and Chang'e is still, to this day, living on the moon alone except for her friend Jade Rabbit. And all of her tears become stardust as she waits for him forever and loves him forever and is alone. Hearing her mom talk about a love that lasts forever and seeing the love in between her parents, she kind of imprints that story on her parents' relationship. A true forever love. The day-to-day life of Fei-Fei and her family is a happy one. Her parents sell mooncakes at their store, and through the song Mooncakes, which is very catchy, we understand how the mooncakes are made. With kindness, care, and love. There is magic in these mooncakes.
Magic in these mooncakes. You can feel it all around.
During the song, we see Fei-Fei get older. We see her develop an aptitude for math and science. She calculates how many mooncakes you'd have to stack up to actually reach the moon because she's just a little nerd, and that's great. But we also see that her mom is not doing well. She's getting sicker and sicker, from walking normally to needing a cane, and then at one point even needing a wheelchair to get around. At one point we see the family gathered around a lake where Fei-Fei's parents give her a gift, a little bunny rabbit named Bungie. As the family has a group hug, Fei-Fei is ecstatic, but her parents' faces are filled with grief. We next see the village on a gray and rainy day, and Fei-Fei and her dad are wearing black as they come back from the funeral of her mother. And that leads us to another Disney dart, dead mom, and or dead/absent parent. So yeah, her mom passed away. Let's talk about rabbits for a second. So throughout most of the world, rabbits are associated with luck, right? But also in a lot of Asian countries, rabbits are associated with the moon. The justification behind this is that the shadows on the moon kind of look like a rabbit that's like pounding on something. But different cultures have different interpretations of what exactly the moon bunny is doing. In Japan, it could be the rabbit is pounding on mochi dough, which is a rice-based sweet that is also associated with the moon. Because of the association with the Chang'e myth, rabbits can also be a symbol of longevity. So let's talk about Fei-Fei's rabbit in particular. It's ironic then that her parents give her this rabbit as her mother's life is coming to an end. It could be that that is their way of telling her that there's so much more to life and that she has so much more to look forward to. The rabbit for Fei-Fei in particular could be a symbol of childhood innocence, which makes sense given that the first thing that we see Fei-Fei with is a bunny rabbit balloon. But into Bungie, that really could just be a wish from her parents that she keeps that childhood innocence even after something horrible happens, like her mother dying. We get a time skip to 4 years later where Fei Fei has cut up all of her hair and she promises that she will remember her mom and all of the lessons that she taught her, and that's basically where she is right now. She and Baba keep the mooncake shop going, she excels in school, and then her dad meets someone new.
Hi, Fei Fei.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
When she gets home one day, her dad has brought home Mrs. Zhang. Fei Fei can see the chemistry between them and she does not like it. Even worse, Mrs. Zhang has brought red dates to add to her mom's traditional mooncake recipe, and Fei Fei is not about that at all. Another thing she doesn't like, Mrs. Zhang's son, Chen, an 8-year-old boy whose interests include running through walls, hanging upside down like a bat, and frogs. Do you hear that? You know what it's time for. It's time for frogs! So frogs and toads, used interchangeably here, can often be associated with wealth, prosperity, yin, regeneration, fertility even. There's this popular statue of a 3-legged frog with a coin in its mouth, apparently called Jin Chan or Chan Cho. Nowadays it's mostly used as a good luck charm in feng shui, but apparently it has some origins in the story of Chang'e. Frogs and toads aren't mentioned specifically in the story of Chang'e in this movie, but according to Google, in some versions of the story where Chang'e takes both immortality potions out of selfishness, and I quote, she actually turns into a frog on her way to the moon. In this movie, Chin is linked to frogs as Fei Fei is linked to rabbits. And just as the rabbit symbolizes Fei Fei's attachment to childhood and not wanting to move on, the frog here represents new beginnings. Both are linked to good fortune and luck, but they're different. And I think you could kind of read into that with the different compositions of Fei Fei's family. The one that she has in childhood, and the one that she might have with Mrs. Zhang. They're both similar in that they offer an amount of love and support, even though they're different.
Disgusting!
There's an awkward conversation between Fei Fei and her dad where she's telling her dad how she's not a fan of their new guests, and her dad is telling her, like, I'm extremely lonely, but then they're both interrupted by the rest of their family arriving, grandparents and aunts, for the Moon Festival. Fei Fei's making mooncakes when Mrs. Zhang tries to connect with her, with some freaking red dates to change her mother's recipe again. Ugh. Fei Fei gives her the cold shoulder, says she's probably allergic to dates actually, and that's not the way that they do things around here. Ouch. I guess you're in the video now, Jude. Probably doesn't help that Fei Fei's grandpa keeps giving her facts about the hairy crab, which apparently is an invasive species that decimates whatever ecosystem it's introduced to. At dinner, Fei Fei brings up her mother as much as possible to make Mrs. Zhang very uncomfortable. Nice. But then her aunts start talking smack about Chang'e, saying that she's selfish and that she doesn't care about Hou Yi at all. This breaks Fei Fei's heart because she is so linked the Chang'e story with her parents' story. And if Chang'e's love isn't forever and real, then the love between her parents wasn't real, and that's just a bit too much for Fei Fei to handle right now. Mrs. Zhang gives us a fact that apparently she's related to Hou Yi, but Fei Fei literally does not care to see Mrs. Zhang at all right now. She kind of storms off after trying to defend Chang'e, and Chen annoys her a little bit more before telling her that
My mom and your dad are getting Don't say it. Don't.
Fei Fei is not happy about this at all. So Fei Fei sulks in her room for a little bit, and then she gets the idea that maybe if she can get her father to believe that Chang'e is real, he will then suddenly realize that he can't move on from her mom because his love for her is forever, and forever true love, it's worth being alone forever for, right? So in the song Fly Away, Fei Fei explains how she's going to build a rocket to the moon, find proof that Chang'e is real, so that way her dad will not marry Mrs. Zhang, and that will keep the memory of her mother alive. Whew. After many suspicious Amazon purchases and many different iterations of this rocket that just crashes into the ground, Fei Fei settles on a design and dresses it up like a cute little bunny rabbit. With her making the rocket look like a rabbit, we can see that she's desperately trying to hold on to this childhood innocence and is resisting this change and resisting the outside desire for her to move on. But then it's finally launch day, where Fei Fei actually launches her rocket into the sky, and for a little bit it works.
I did it!
But then something's wrong and it starts crashing to the earth. And that's when we find out that Chin has stowed away on board, and that's what's wrong. She didn't calculate his extra weight. And now they're both going to die, and now I guess this is a tragic movie. Just kidding, that doesn't happen. A massive beam of light stops their free fall and actually pulls them towards the moon. And these giant dog, lion-looking things, Pichu, bat them. Ugh! And then these giant lion dog things start batting the spaceship around, then crashes on the moon. And for a second, it looks like everyone is dead. Like, Chin's frog literally croaks because he cannot breathe. But then the Pichu breathe life back into them and then kidnap the children past the dark side of the moon. They're taken to this bright, neon, jelly-like city, Lunaria. And then they're dropped off in front of this palace where they're then ushered off by these bright, neon, jelly-like mooncake people into the palace. And in there, we have a 30-20 C-pop concert by Chang'e herself in the song Ultra Luminary. Fei-Fei is so excited to see that she's right. Chang'e is real. She gives her a big hug and even gets like a fan picture with her, but Chang'e is not the nice lady that the song told us that she would be. You better stop! She kind of sucks. Chang'e is asking Fei-Fei for something called the gift, and actually takes Fei-Fei's photo of them away from her, which is the proof that she needs to give to her father that Chang'e is real. In order to get this photo back, Fei-Fei has to give Chang'e the gift. Whatever that is. Chang'e doesn't even tell her what the gift is, she just says that she senses that it's somewhere on her moon.
Damn!
Then she sends all of Lunaria after this gift and tells them that whoever brings it to her will get a wish granted. So good luck, Fei-Fei, you're now against the millions of jelly denizens of Lunaria, also looking for this magical, nondescript gift. So while all of Lunaria is scrambling to find this gift, Chang'e asks Jade Rabbit if he has the potion ready, because once they get the gift, they're going to need that potion to achieve whatever she plans on achieving here. And it's very clear that Jade Rabbit does not have this potion together at all, and also he's extremely anxious. Chin, who has been weirdly enthusiastic about Fei-Fei being his new sister, is like really wanting to help Fei-Fei find this gift, but Fei-Fei like tells him off and says that she doesn't want anything to do with him at all, and that she can do this by herself, because after all, I guess she kind of sees Chin's mother as being the whole problem in the first place, so yikes. Fei-Fei rides off with some chickens that suspiciously look like angry birds, and Chin stays at the palace, and at first he's upset, but then he sees one of the jelly people with the photo, and he figures if he can get that photo for Fei-Fei, then Fei-Fei will then accept him as a brother. He's then immediately captured by palace security, and he tells Chang'e that he knows where the gift is. So Chang'e takes him to an interrogation chamber, which is more like a glorified games room, where she decides that they're going to play ping pong, and whoever wins this ping pong match, that's how they're going to settle this. If she wins, he's going to tell her where the gift is, and if he wins, she will give him the photo. This launches into a rap hip-hop song called Hey Boy, which initially is just really cringy, but it gets a little bit better as it goes on, as you get used to it.
I'm the best, I'm the queen of Lunaria, and my service spectacular.
With a mad diss, Chin actually wins the match, but Chang'e kind of sucks, so she locks him in the interrogation chamber and sulks in her room some more.
No one's leaving until I get that gift.
Hey, yo, what the?
It's clear on Jade Rabbit's face that he does not have this potion ready, and it starts to sink in with Chang'e that she may never see Hou Yi again, which apparently what all of this has been for. She starts on the song Always and Forever, which we will hear more of later, and it seems like when she gets upset, there's these storm clouds that happen, and it actually hurts all of the jelly people. But enough of that, let's get back to Fei-Fei and the Angry Birds. Fei-Fei gets to the crash site with these Angry Birds where they come across this weird gummy dog dinosaur looking guy named Gobi. And Gobi was apparently an advisor to the queen before he was banished for one reason or another. So Fei-Fei finds this doll that her mom gave her at the beginning of the movie, and she figures this must be the gift that Chang'e wants. And then the chicken bike riders that she was going with immediately betray her and take the doll anyway.
This must be it.
Yeah, must be.
So with no other real choice, Fei Fei and Gobi start walking back to the palace on foot. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Fei Fei's bunny rabbit, Bungie, meets up with Jade Rabbit, and they have like a little meet cute. They have a little action going on where apparently being flirted with by a female bunny is just the ingredient that Jade Rabbit needed to get the potion to work. So good for him. He could have just watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Back to Gobi and Fei Fei. Gobi is talking Fei Fei's ear off when these giant jelly neon frogs emerge from the surface of the moon and threaten to eat them. But hey, now they've found their way home. Gobi then reveals exactly why he was banished from Chang'e's court. Apparently there was a time where she was nice and graceful, not like we've seen so far. But then Hoi died. After that, Chang'e disappeared for a while, and all of the lights of Lunaria dimmed out in something known as the Great Darkness. And Fei Fei can relate. Losing someone that you love changes you. Gobi sings the song that got him banished in the song Wonderful, which basically says that your life is wonderful and that there's so much to look forward to and that you can hold on to your memories, but ultimately you just need to move on. Fei Fei leaves the Earth in a bunny rocket, clinging to the idea of keeping things the same, of maintaining a family that's already gone, already changed, and that rocket then crashes. And keeping with the Frogs Equal New Beginnings theme, it's interesting that she has to literally leave her rocket, her childish dreams behind. And in order to get home, she has to literally ride on the backs of giant frogs. It all leads back to frogs. This continues when Fei Fei and Gobi end up catching up with the biker chickens, and Fei Fei almost gets her childhood doll back, but in the ensuing chase and fight sequence, the doll is destroyed. She's had to let go of this idea of keeping her mother alive by having her last physical object connecting her to her mother destroyed. So she and Gobi talk about how she's upset, she doesn't want her dad to get remarried, and how annoying Chin is, and then she eats this mooncake that Mrs. Zhang had given her, and then, surprise, surprise, the other half of the amulet that Chang'e was wearing is inside that mooncake! It's the gift! That's the thing that Chang'e was looking for. Kind of suspicious and dubious that her soon-to-be stepmother put a rock inside of the treat that she was supposed to consume, to the point of almost being like a Disney Dart evil stepmother type thing, but oh well, we need this for plot purposes. She gives the gift to Chang'e just in time. With the potion and the gift completing the amulet, we have all the ingredients we need, and the room changes into a forest. Chang'e's appearance changes into the way it was when she lived on Earth as a mortal, and then she starts to sing. This song, Always and Forever, it starts out very haunting and kind of sad. But as Chang'e sings, somebody sings with her. Hoi is back. This is the first time she has seen him since he died on Earth. And as they reunite, it's honestly a pretty touching scene. But Chang'e can't touch him. And Hoi tells her that he has to go and that she needs to move on. And Chang'e has to go through the grief of losing him all over again, as he literally disappears from this plane of existence, with the last words he says being that he will always love her. Ugh, this isn't gonna be good for my cry pie. As what's happened kind of sinks in, a massive storm forms all around Chang'e, and all of the lights of Lunaria start to dim out. The Great Darkness is back. Suddenly, Chang'e is all alone in this chamber of impenetrable sadness, and nobody can enter. Fei Fei, knowing that it's possible that she might not ever be able to get out, tries and is able to enter in. She tries to approach Chang'e, but she's distracted by something, and it leads her to memories of her own grief, of memories of her mother brushing her hair, and then the moment where Fei Fei herself cuts her hair as a response to the grief of losing her mom. The vision fades and Fei Fei herself is shutting down from the grief. Chang'e notices Fei Fei curled up and tells her that she has to get out of here, that she has to move on or else she'll be sad and lonely forever. Fei Fei asks how she's supposed to do that, and then Chang'e sings a song that's set to the same tune as Fly Away. To move on, you have to give and accept love. Even though it's different, you can love somebody new. Chin breaks through the barrier. I want my sister! Fei instantly accepts him as her new brother, and then she gives Chang'e her own advice. You have to accept the love that people are trying to give you. And then all the Lunarians and even the Pishu come and give Chang'e a big group hug. Chin and Fei are trying to say goodbye, but Bungie wants to stay with her new green boyfriend.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
Fei letting Bungie stay on the moon and literally saying goodbye to the closest thing that she has to a connection to her mom at this point and her best friend is a really poignant show of the growth that her character has gone through at this point. Fei is letting go of the symbol of her childhood, allowing her to move on from the past and love her new family. Chang'e gives Fei the photo that she came here for and says that Fei was the real gift all along. And then the Pishu take them back to Earth, although upon re-entry the photo burns up and Fei doesn't care anymore. They return home and through photos we see that Chin got 3rd place in his ping pong tournament, Fei's dad married Mrs. Zhang, and Fei has come to really love her new mother. Also, they got a dog. The crane that inspired the song Fly Away gives her a knowing look and then flies away into the sky, finally free. In Chinese mythology that I was able to find on Google, cranes are often able to represent nobility, longevity, or for our purposes here, everlasting love or loyalty. Fei initially sees the crane as a sign that her father should be holding on to the love that he has for her mother, that he should not be moving on, that the love is supposed to be eternal and that he's supposed to be loyal to that love. A year later, after Fei's adventure, we, the audience, and Fei are meant to see this as a sign that the love that we have for somebody is everlasting, but it can grow or change shape in the love that we find with other people. And with that, the end. I'm not going to go too in depth with the actual lore of Over the Moon because, hi, my name is Kyrie and I'm white. And there are a lot of other Chinese creators that cover this kind of thing a lot better. One of them being Ziren J. Zhao. You can find that video linked in the description below. But I will talk about things that I do like and things that I don't like. Things that I do like include the beginning where it's more sci-fi, then how it kind of turns into fantasy. I like the animation overall. I like the location designs. I like the character designs. I think any kind of movie that is trying to broach a difficult topic in a way that children can understand and accept and be able to emotionally grow, I'm all about that. But things I don't like. Keeping in theme with the Disney dartboard, Disney has a problem with mothers, specifically mothers being alive, to the point where mothers for a very long time were underrepresented with most Disney releases. I think they've changed that a bit in a lot of the new stuff, but it still remains a big problem. I've seen a lot of reviews of this movie that slap it with the same criticism, that this is just another dead mom Disney wannabe movie. And while the story could certainly be improved, I think understanding the background of this movie helps put a little bit of context as to why that criticism is not really valid for this one. So let's go ahead and put a pin or put a dart in the dead mom problem for now. We do have to talk about the ping pong rap battle between Chang'e and Chin. Ew. I go back and forth as to whether or not I hate or tolerate it. My first instinct is to cringe really hard, but then I realize oh, if I don't think about it very much, I guess it's okay. I guess it's fine. The story also often feels like puzzle pieces that just don't quite fit that were jammed together, which is disappointing because I think the story having some more cohesion and consistency, combined with a lighter touch on the stated themes that are just pounded into your head multiple times, not even subtle anymore, I think that would really improve it a lot. I have to wonder how much of the script was left on the editing room floor or how much the script changed after the screenwriter was done with it. As an example, there's a lot of ambiguity and inconsistency with the actual story of Chang'e and Huoyi to begin with. In the beginning, we hear that she took an immortality potion and then she floated up to the moon. But then during dinner with the aunties are saying that no, suddenly she just took 2 immortality pills because she was selfish. But then Fei defends her, saying that no, she took the immortality pills because there was a bandit and Huoyi was out hunting. And if she didn't take them, then it's just it's kind of all over the place. The abrupt change between potions and pills might seem small, but even Shin is mentioning these pills during the rap ping pong song with Chang'e. It's a small nitpick overall, but I think it could cause confusion to a Western audience that isn't really familiar with the myth to begin with. And as we know, everything should cater to a Western audience. I'm kidding. I don't like being confused. And if you're basing everything off of an already kind of confusing or inconsistent myth, maybe bringing attention to the fact that the myth is confusing for an unfamiliar audience would be helpful. It doesn't help that the movie doesn't just pick a version of the myth and stick with it. Chang'e shows enough depth that we come to understand that this superficial diva facade is, in fact, a facade to hide the pain and the grief of losing Huiyi. We don't really get her humanized outside of that. The character of Chang'e in general seems really, really inconsistent throughout the entire film. It makes the scene where she comforts Fei Fei and is telling her to move on feel really unearned and forced. Gobi, I think, is another great example of the disparate pieces that were just kind of slapped together. He's like this universe's Olaf from Frozen, except he doesn't get any of the backstory that makes Olaf work. He just kind of shows up and we learn that he was once a part of Chang'e's court. But when I first watched it, I thought Gobi was going to have some sort of connection to the space dog from the beginning of the movie. But he didn't. Instead, he off-screen sings a song about how your life is wonderful and there's so much more to look forward to and you should just move on, and that's why Chang'e banished him. And we do get to hear the song, which itself is fine. I don't think there is any... I think one of the main problems with this movie is that there are multiple points where there is little, if any, build-up to these payoff points. So while this movie is not blowing my mind by any means, I am willing to accept a lot of these flaws for one simple reason. The weepy rule. The weepy rule is a new one for my channel. It is that if a movie has made me cry, I am way more likely to forgive its flaws.
Damn!
Speaking of which, let's circle back to that dead mom dart/pin and talk about how we should frame this movie. It isn't just a normal cash grab, or at least if it is for Netflix, it at least has a bit more heart than a lot of the more recent Disney releases that are mostly just live-action, soulless remakes of their movies. Dead Disney moms. Why I feel lenient towards this movie. See, this movie was written by Aubrey Wells, a writer, director, and producer that created other movies such as A Dog's Purpose, The Hate You Give, George of the Jungle, Under the Tuscan Sun, among others. After fighting for over 5.5 years, she passed away in 2018 while this movie was still being made from cancer. She was 58. The film's producer, Jenny Rim, said that Audrey wanted this movie to be a love letter to her daughter and for her husband. When you look at the movie from this perspective, there are a lot of things that start to make sense. Like, first of all, wow, this and the Iron Giant actually do have a lot in common with that shared sense of grief. But also, this backstory makes it clear to me that this isn't just another Disney dead mom story. If the themes of moving past grief and living your life were laid on pretty thick, it's because they were written by a mother who could only imagine the pain that she was going to be leaving with her daughter and her husband after her own death. What would you do in this position? You're writing a movie a year or two before it comes into production, and as somebody who knows that they are dying, how do you have that hard conversation with your 15-year-old daughter? How do you tell your daughter that you're dying because you know you're dying, you know it's coming? How do you tell her that when you're gone, all you want for her to do is to live her life and move on? What would you do if this movie was your legacy? We can't presume to know what she actually said to her daughter or her husband, or what she was thinking when she was actually fighting her illness. But watching this movie with that context, I am willing to indulge the message, even if it does feel heavy-handed at points. This movie is a love letter, and this movie is a goodbye. This movie is written by somebody who is at the end of their life, who is facing down the long, long tunnel of oblivion or heaven or what have you in the face, and still only thinking about their family, only thinking about the people who she's going to leave behind. The people who are going to feel the pain, and the people who are actually going to watch this movie when she can't, when she's gone. And knowing that, well, it's heartbreaking and it's beautiful. I hope today that I inspired you to take a look at a movie that I think got lost in the shuffle. While it may have many of the elements of classic Disney movies, and while not being as polished as a classic Disney movie, I think it's a cute flick for both kids and adults alike. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like or subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this. If you want more control over the words that come out of my mouth and the videos that I make, go ahead and leave me a comment telling me what kind of movie that you would like me to check out. I have quite a few videos that I'm going to be covering that come straight from the comments, so you do have a direct impact on me here. Until next time, my name is Kyrie. This is Flights of Fantasy, and no, shit, I didn't get it right. My name is Kyrie. This is Flights of Fantasy, and until next time, live well and learn to accept the love that people are sending your way, or else you'll bully a child and also end up in the chamber of exquisite sadness for all time and be very lonely for the rest of your life.
Coming soon on video and DVD.
Have to fight. Have to crow. Have to save Maggie. Have to save Jack.